Okay, according to Verizon time, it's 6 o'clock. Time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, September 26, 2023. Mr. Baker.
Ms. Ulrich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
And Mr. Weckbach, is there a need to go into executive session tonight?
Yes, I would request a motion that the board go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purchases and in accordance with G3 to discuss pending or imminent litigation.
I motion that we go into executive session for the reasons detailed by Mr. Weckbach.
I'll second.
Ms. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back at 7. Thank you. Okay, it's officially 7 o'clock. Time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, September 26.
Ms. Ulrich?
2023. Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Okay. Anything?
Nothing to report from executive session.
Okay, we can stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance then. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for our moment of meditation, let's just say a prayer that all the positive attributes of our community override and overshadow all the negativeness and hatred in our community. Thank you. Okay, we've got some approval of minutes.
Thank you, Board. Would ask for a motion for approval of the minutes of the regular meeting that was held on September 12th, 2023.
I motion that we approve the minutes from the September 12th meeting.
I'll second. Okay, this one. Any discussion?
None from me.
None for me.
None.
Ms. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
And then first up this evening, we've got a presentation to swear in some new employees by Fire Chief Alan Walls.
Good evening, Chief.
Good evening to the board, our residents, and families who are in attendance tonight for the swearing in of our two newest career firefighters. At this time, I'd like Charles Graham and Aaron DeWald to come forward, please. So Charles here, he has a double bachelor's degree in criminal justice and psychology from the University of Cincinnati. He attended the Colerain Township Recruit Academy. He was hired part-time in June of 2022. He also worked at Miami Township, Claremont County, and Williamsburg Township Fire and EMS. And tonight, he will be penned by his wife, Maxine. Aaron DeWald, he attended a semester at the University of Cincinnati and chose a different career path, which led him to the Colerain Township Recruit Academy. He's worked part-time with us since June of 2022, and tonight he's going to be penned by his father, Jim. And I'm going to let Charles introduce his family. You're not nervous, are you? And at this time, we'll let Aaron introduce his family. All right. Would Maxine and Jim come forward, please?
Ready? Yes, sir. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Aaron DeWald,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
I'll abide by the Colerain Fire and EMS
I'll abide by the Colerain Fire and EMS
mission statement,
mission statement,
values,
values,
code of ethics,
code of ethics,
operating guidelines
and
the township's policies and procedures.
the township's policies and procedures.
I'll faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic
Faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter paramedic
in and for Colerain Township,
in and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County,
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio,
State of Ohio,
to the best of your ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations to your families. What a great day for all of you.
Yes, thank you for sharing your families on this wonderful event.
And congratulations, welcome aboard, or welcome to full-time as it might apply, and thanks to all the families for being here, and this is what's good about America, the folks that provide service and do what they can to help out their fellow man, and it just is always the best part of the meeting when we swear in new police, fire, and EMS, and thank you so much for your service, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for Zoning Commission Case ZA 2023-11, zoning map amendment for 7679 East Miami River Road. This is a request to move from R2 to PDM. Oh, yes.
May we be dismissed to the rotunda?
Yes, I think that's fine. So, and while folks are leaving, David Miller will attend the dais to introduce this item.
Good evening, Mr. Miller.
Good evening.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Thank you.
All right, so tonight is a public hearing for case ZA 2023-11. It's a zoning map amendment for 7679 East Miami River Road from R2 to PDM. And the recommendation is adoption later on when we get to the resolutions. But the case was brought to us, applicant is Rob Painter with RVP Engineering. And Rob's here tonight to present as well. He's representing the property owner, Paul Bauman, and he is the owner of H.J. Hauling. The proposed amendment seeks to permit the use of the property as both single-family residential and automotive commercial vehicle terminal. It is currently a vacant lot. So to orient you, it is almost the furthest north you can go in Colerain Township before crossing the county line. So go all the way up 27, and it's just on the north side of East Miami River Road. The Colerain Township Zoning Commission had a hearing in April of this year where the applicant came forward with an informal concept review, pitched his idea to the Zoning Commission, got feedback, and then developed a plan and came forward with this plan development. And the plan development is going to allow them to have an office there that's going to be, I believe it was 600 square feet. Let me see if I can get that right here. Single-family residence, about 1,837 square feet. Office is approximately 600 square feet. And then a commercial building that's approximately 3,600 square feet to permit the operation of the family business, which is H.J. Hauling. Staff is of the opinion that the proposed rezoning of the property to PDM, which is a mixed-use plan development, could be beneficial to Colerain Township if appropriate conditions of approval were included to help protect and isolate surrounding properties. So one of the conditions that they did request at the Zoning Commission that was not part of the packet that's in front of you was that a wall would be built on top of a berm there at the edge of the property. And so applicant did agree to that. So I'd like to invite Mr. Painter up to present to you as well.
We should probably open the public hearing first and then have that be part of the
I'll
testimony.
motion
for
to
that.
open the public hearing for Zoning Commission Case ZA 2223-11, zoning map amendment for 7679 East Miami River Road from R2 to PDM.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
None?
Ms. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And then consistent with past public hearings, if anybody's wishing to speak, if they could please stand at this time, and our law director will swear you in.
Does everyone? All right. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, trustees. Appreciate your time tonight. My name is Rob Painter with RVP Engineering, 6236 Center Park Drive, Westchester, Ohio 45069. I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Ohio. I've been working in the engineering business for the past 3 decades, 1 decade of which is with my own business, engineering and surveying. I'm happy to be here tonight to represent H.J. Halling and Paul Bowman. He would like to relocate his family business, H.J. Halling, to this site. He really liked it for its access and its location next to the river. So he could put his business at that basically interchange off of 27, the ramp that comes off there, as well as have the residents basically overlooking the river. It was a perfect spot for him, and he's excited to be in the township. So as Mr. Miller said, 3,600 square feet of basically a maintenance building with 3 bays, 600 square feet of office, 1,800 and so square feet of residence in the back, and outdoor truck parking. We're looking for this approval in the zone change and the preliminary development plan so that we can proceed then to final development plan and continue to get our permits from the county. We'll design the site, the utilities, sewer, water, stormwater, erosion, all of that's going to be designed at the final development plan time to the county standards. The site itself, and H.J. Halling itself, is a trucking company. So the trucks stay there overnight. They start up in the morning, they leave, they come back. 7 a.m., they start up and they go. 6 p.m. or so, they come back. There's no material that's stored on site. There's no dumping, there's no storage, none of that. It's just strictly for the trucks, the office people, and the business itself. In addition, they would like the residents in back, and that's why we have this PDM request, because they want both the commercial and the residential at the same time. The plantings that we've shown on our plans do exceed the requirements, because in addition to the sound wall and earth berm, sound is a big issue on the site, not only for the site itself, but for the surrounding neighbors. The owners took sound measurements at the property line and up on the site itself within 200 feet of the existing residence to the north. And it measured between 75 and 78 decibels, and that's very loud. That's like standing next to a truck. That was at 3:45 p.m. So there is a sound issue up there as it is right now. Whereas if you go to their existing facility, they started 5 of their trucks, went 120 feet away, took a sound level, it was in the 50s, like 54. That's conversation level. That's not bad at all. So as you may know, sound is not only the generator of the sound, but how far away you are from it. So having an existing sound problem, and sound is cumulative. They add together. If you've ever been to the Bengals Stadium, you know that one person shouting or 60,000 people shouting, it adds together. So to mitigate that issue, we're going to put in the earthen berm with the wall and supplemental plantings. We're not going to tear down trees to put up trees. We're going to add supplemental planting along the boundary to the north to help knock down the sound that not only already comes from the highway as it is, but whatever might come from the trucks that are there. So we're cognizant of that issue, and we're addressing it. We want to be good neighbors, and we want to be part of what the township's got going on. So I'm available for questions if you have any, and otherwise I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Carrie, I think this is your writing, that you want to talk on this. Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm sorry, we still had a number of people that are talking on.
The public, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
She's
Okay.
good for this too. Yep.
They can go first, because I like to let the residents speak
Okay, I just want to make sure that is you. Okay, okay. Okay, then Dawn Fritz. Are you? Okay, so you're not going to speak then? But you want Vicky to go first. Okay, go ahead. Come up and just state your name and your address. Okay, thank you.
It's not that scary. It's all right.
I did it one other time, but I might be a little nervous.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Vicki Sherritt.
Good evening.
I live at, good evening, 7385 East River Road, Fairfield, Ohio, 45014. Even though I am in Butler County, as you know that this literally,
Right on the border.
the driveway is right on the border, okay? I just have points I want to make. We feel like this has already been finalized because they've already purchased the land. So I don't know why you would purchase something not knowing if it's going to be rezoned or not. So I just want to make some points that us neighbors have brought up, okay? So that was the first one. I did see, I think it was on Facebook, that they clean out their trucks. If they're cleaning them out at that property, where does that waste go? Does the engineering firm have an environmental engineer, since we're dealing with the river? I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I wasn't here at the last meeting, but a week ago, the PDFs were not listed on the meeting from a month ago. It wasn't until last week on Wednesday, the PDFs were available for us. And in fact, when I saw the PDFs, one of the maps was Fairfield Township. I tried calling them. I don't know if they have to be made aware since it's a county line like that. They've never called me back. But I wanted you to know, we didn't have any of this data until last Wednesday. Will the sound barrier be covered by trees right at the connector? Because we don't, it's beautiful there. We don't want somebody to drive up. I don't want my family to drive up and see a big sound barrier wall. Right now, it's beautiful trees. At the last meeting, one of the engineers did say that the only way they would go east towards Fairfield is if they were hauling something to the church. Does that mean they purchase the commodity and then bring it back?
Did you
house
say
it
hauling
overnight?
something to a church?
The Nazarene Church is
Oh,
right
okay.
there.
Right, I know where that
Okay,
is.
so he said that's as far east as they will go. So we were just wondering, do they bring commodity back? And sit it overnight and then deliver it? Who will handle the road maintenance? We all know how it is on Colerain and Struble with Rumpke trucks and the divots in the road. So we're concerned about our road, especially the connector. And who will handle, even if it goes into Butler County, who do we contact if our roads become, with the big rivets in them? Will they be able to build additional buildings on that property later on? They do have a lot of requirements. They brought that up in the last meeting. Who's gonna police that? The sound barriers, the trees, there was so much that they said. Who is gonna police that? Is there fines? What's the penalties for it? And it said in the PDF that it's beneficial to Colerain. But it doesn't say what benefits. I get taxpayers and things like that, property taxes. What other benefits? Is there not other places they can put their hauling company? One concern was a street sign. Will they put a street sign? I did see a bunch of words on pages 32 through 36. We just want it to look pretty, that's all. I'm gonna bring this up just because I have it, because I did review some of this with neighbors. On their application, it doesn't show that the application fee was paid. Business hours on the letter to the board said that they were 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. The last meeting, they said they start as early as 6:30 sometimes. Also on the PDF, page 38, and I'm sorry, I don't see the members of the zoning commission that maybe had these PDFs and I didn't print them, I'm sorry. But it talks about Green Township and not Colerain Township. So I didn't know about that. Environmental engineer, those are my points.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dawn, do you want to come up and speak now?
Hi, my name is Dawn Fritz. My mother's name is Jacqueline Yust. She
Just your
owns-
address before we.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
7599 East River Road.
Okay.
It's the property directly adjacent to this property.
Okay.
It was my mother's grandparents' property at one time.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I am interested in knowing, during this whole process, it's already very busy there with trucks coming from Fairfield, coming from Ross. Has there been any type of assessment of the traffic at all? Has anything been done to come out and see how it is now before they even would consider allowing this? That is a really big concern. Does anybody know if
Has the traffic study been done?
So traffic studies are not done at this point in the process. So the way that zoning works in townships is we're required to look at the density, intensity, and use. The traffic study is actually done at the county level with the county engineer and the subdivision plan. So as townships, we're very limited in what we have under our purview. If we were a city, we'd be looking at all of that at once, but as a township, we're only looking at just the zoning at this point.
So are you telling me this can be zoned commercial and this be approved? And then they're gonna look at the traffic?
They have additional approval steps along the way with other entities that have that authority. We do not have the authority to approve or deny based off of traffic studies.
But it can be approved prior to those studies being done?
That is how the state law has it set up, yes.
That just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you would come out there and see it now, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the area.
I am.
I drive it several times a week, yeah.
It's bad. It's bad now. And, you know, I know the trustees are elected by the residents of the township, you know, to be the voice of the residents of the township. And I don't understand how this is gonna benefit the township. And I'm really, I understand you said it's a state law. I can't even imagine how you can make a decision. This property was purchased as residential, and it might be rezoned commercial and a business go in, and then they do traffic studies. It seems like you're putting the
Cart before the horse.
You're putting the cart before the horse, definitely. Yes, that's a really big concern and very disappointing. And like I said, I also don't understand how this benefits Colerain Township. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Davis.
Good evening.
They were well prepared, weren't they? They know what they're talking about. I believe the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Your address, please.
Oh, 8364 Royal Heights, Cincinnati, blah, blah, blah. Carrie Davis. I believe the reason we're not requiring all that other stuff is because we have voluntarily, I think before both of you were even on board, we X'd the Hamilton County's regional approval process. Dan, you know all about this. We took them out of the mix. We don't have to have them, and we no longer let them see our stuff and give their opinion. And I think that has hurt us greatly that we have nixed them from our process, because their questions may well have been answered if we'd utilized this free service that is supposed to be available to all county residents, and Township has decided to take that away from the residents by a resolution. I want to raise with legal counsel that I am very concerned about the due process rights. They did complain at the last meeting about not being able to access the documents, and I don't know how your public notice went, and if it went to the site that did not access the documents adequately. I know in a recent case with the EPA, they made them restart the whole process because you have to have the documents. So I think from what we're hearing, we're getting the cart before the horse. So I'm going to throw in some of my crapola. The first thing, as a resident of Colerain, you said that you were running for office because you cared about the way our community looked. This is right at the intersection of when people enter and leave Colerain Township. And when I drive to Oxford on my way to one of my work locations, it's that moment that is scenic when you're going over that bridge and you have your couple nice houses on both sides. You can't see the daggone sand gravel pit. You just see the winding river, and it's gorgeous. And I personally envision a big welcome to Colerain sign there someday. And thank you for coming to Colerain. And now we want to take that beautiful asset that is so rare in any other community, and we want to turn it into something that we have industrial zones in Colerain. There's availability. He did buy the land in March prior to anything being approved or presented. So I think he bought it for his house and then thought, geez, I wonder if I can put my business here. I ask you not to ruin that. You have a video that promotes Colerain. You need to redo the video if you're going to make that an industrial zone, because that video focuses on that leg of the river and it's promoting it. So I don't think everybody in Colerain Township should have to sacrifice our assets and our ability to be prideful of our community so that one person can have a shorter commute to work. Additionally, he is currently operating his business in an industrial zone. And most people do that because their business is really deemed industrial. I think heavy trucks is an industrial exercise, business. And I think he needs to stay where he is. We are going from residential to, I believe, industrial at our gateway to Colerain Township. And I think this is really bad for us and their neighbors. One thing for the neighbors, a lot of times people say, well, I had my business here before we even had zoning. Well, I looked up the property records around, and other than the one neighbor, I think, who spoke, whose family owned the property, those are all new residents who built very expensive homes in a district that was zoned residential. And I think this is particularly egregious to let them buy that land and then put in a trucking company in the middle of a residential area. And a couple other things. I noticed also on our records, it does not mention the fact that this building location is over, what do they call that? The underwater system?
Aquifer.
Aquifer. It's on the Miami Aquifer. It has a water wellhead on the property where that water is brought in, taken down. The reason it says Bolton on the documents, you know, they said they couldn't find any reference to it. I'm actually shaking. They couldn't find any reference. I Googled it. It's the Bolton Water Treatment Plant, and it's because we are drawing our drinking water from this location, and now we want to put dirty trucks in this type of area. If you guys are tending to approve this, which I pray is not even a consideration, they need to be treated like Rumpke. The stuff they're hauling, we don't know what they're hauling. Is there leachette on those, just like in Rumpke trucks? Do they have a wheel wash before they come into this residential neighborhood? You know, she is exactly right. Where is the dirty water going? So if they are to be approved, we need a whole system similar to Rumpke's where it goes into a certain water catching system and that water has to be shipped out. to a treatment plant to make sure it doesn't have leachate in it or any other chemicals. I think there's way too many obstacles here. A couple things. The reason the sound is so bad there is the same reason you can hear the crickets when you're down there fishing at that part of the river. It's a valley, and it's going to magnify every sound. And one thing I'm not seeing in the documents, how many trucks are we going to allow? Is it going to be 3, or is it going to be 33? Is it just the number of trucks they have, or is it their subcontractors that do hauling for them who might be coming in to pick up their paycheck? We have no boundary set for them on how much traffic, when the traffic, how many people. Let's see. I sure don't want people to see semis and stuff like that parked along that scenic river. It is a beautiful place for a home. The commercial district, industrial district is further down the road. If it was next to that, it might be different, but it's not. Okay, let's see. The wheelhead, the video, the truck, the contractors, the leachette, which I believe exists. Oh, the entrance. Their entrance is nuts. That's nuts. That is a highway. The reason Struble and Colerain is what, the 8th biggest scene for accidents, I learned from the zoning commission meetings, it's because people are barrel-assing down south on Colerain. They're going highway speeds. And they get to the intersection and people are going too fast and they're not prepared to stop. And we're looking at connecting him up, best I can tell. You're giving me a weird look. Maybe I'm not reading it right. But we're looking at connecting that up to a road that's already a high incidence for accidents. I think that's everything I wanted to crab about on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, one more for Brooke Nussi. Did I say that right? Okay.
My name is Brooke Nuski. I live at 3265 Wheatcroft Drive, Cincinnati. I'm actually just on the other edge of Colerain Township. I'm actually in Green Township, but my children do attend Colerain schools. I have a daughter and a son in Colerain High School right now. I'm majority owner of HJ Hauling at this time. My father, Paul Bowman, he started the business in '98. I've been working pretty actively with him for about 12 years now, and I am in the process of purchasing the other 49%. I am actually the one that is going to be living on the residence, me and my son. It's my long-term goal. I want a nice ranch so I don't have to have steps, and and I can be close to work and still be close to my kids. We do work in we are based in Sharonville right now. Our trucks are not where our office is. We have an office building about 1.5 miles away from where our trucks are parked. Our trucks are parked at a maintenance shop. Probably we'll only have about half of our trucks park here because a lot of my guys live in east area, so I wouldn't want them to have to travel 20 more minutes to get where the trucks are. So I would say probably 5 to 7 vehicles would be entering and exiting when they come to work and leave work on a daily basis. As far as cleaning out our trucks, we did on our Facebook page, I posted a picture of us jumping in. All the girls helped clean out a bed one day, and it gets dumped at a dump site that was right down the road from where our shop is. We don't own the property where we currently have. We don't dump anything or store anything. It's strictly just an office space where we are, and then parking where our trucks are down the street. So there's no additional materials or anything like that. We do not haul hazardous materials. We're not plaqued for it. My drivers aren't certified for it. We don't do it. That's not something I'm looking to get into, so I don't feel like that would be an issue as far as having hazardous materials on our vehicles when we're bringing them back to the shop. Basically, the shop is just going to be there for a tire change or things like that. I still intend on using my main mechanic for anything big because I don't have a mechanic. He has his own shop in Sharonville, so it would just be for small things that need done. New stickers on the truck that need to be out of the rain, things of that nature. Basically, just an office. I have 2 full-time employees and then myself. I'm trying to think if I missed any questions that they asked that I didn't touch on. I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it's just, I would just like to live and work in the same area. I am involved in my community. I'm a part of Sharonville Chamber of Commerce. I'm active there. I'm big on community service. I do think that we could be an asset to Colerain Township, because I would definitely like to be involved with where I live and work at that point, so it would be nice. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, you can. Yes, come on up, please. Just state your name and address, please.
Dawn Fritz, 7599 East River Road, Fairfield, 45014. I apologize. I forgot when I spoke before. I was here on August 15th. It was actually for a zoning meeting. And I just wanted to say it was very disappointing because there were most information was put on the screen up there and we could not see it at all. We absolutely could not see it. And at one point there were some pamphlets passed out and I thought, oh good, we're gonna get to see what we couldn't see on the screen. The pamphlets had nothing to do with what was put up on the screen, and that was very upsetting as well. It would have been nice to have been able to be able to see, you know, there were drawings and I'm sure lots of information, but we couldn't see it. And I know I'm not speaking for myself when I say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you have anything that I saw you writing some things down to answer any questions that were asked?
If you'd like me to, I can come back up.
Is that the way we should do that, or should we discuss it during the voting part of it?
Just public testimony.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your mic, Jeff.
Your mic, Jeff.
Sorry, you can come on up. Yes.
So Rob Painter again. And I think Brooke covered a lot of it. I do want to clarify that we don't have any discharges to the river. The site all flows back towards East Miami River. There's a low point before it goes off site. So we have there's no overland, there's no underground discharges towards the river. So we're not going to impact the river itself. As far as the aquifer, maybe they draw from water deep underground, but we don't have any connection to that. And if it comes through in the county that they want us to look at something as a part of our approval process, then we definitely will. But I would be surprised if there's any wellhead there because there's no easement for it. There's just nothing in the records that says that this is a reserved land and that someone else has rights to draw from it. So I think that's that issue. Yeah, Brooke covered no storage of material. No, we want to be good neighbors, and we want to have a nice, like Brooke's going to live on site. She wants it to look nice. It's going to be her home and her business. So it's going to be well maintained and taken care of. So if you guys have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer.
She mentioned 5 to 7 trucks on site. Is that how many trucks there are?
I think there's 5 garage spaces.
3.
3.
There's up to 3.
Oh, there's the other ones are just doors.
Right.
And are they dump trucks or tanker trucks, or what kind of trucks are they?
Brooke, you've got dump trucks, correct?
So there's no tanker trucks, so there's no liquids.
No tankers, no liquids, no storage on site. No material storage on site.
What kind of materials do you haul?
Brooke, you want to answer that? Yep. Please.
Sure. Yeah, this is all part of the testimony.
So dirt, concrete, asphalt. Right now we're working Cincinnati Airport. We're hauling bridge, like big concrete slabs out, things like that.
So inert materials and nothing that's active?
Yeah, most of our jobs are like schools and hospitals and, Cincinnati Public Radio is another one. We do the ODOT jobs, things like that. So typically all dirt, concrete.
Somebody made a comment about the application fee being paid. Was it paid?
Yes.
Yeah, there's just no stamp on it.
Are you going to have a sign in front of your business that says HJ Hauling, or I guess that's a zoning question for our zoning board. And for those that are just watching this for the first time, we're not the zoning board, we're the trustees, and it sounds like you've gone through our zoning already.
Yes,
And I
we did bring up
intentionally
the
don't go to
sign-
those meetings because I want to have all fresh information.
Yes, I don't need a big sign, I'm not looking to advertise on the highway, but probably one at the end of the driveway, and I can
Right,
make
and that
it
would be
small,
part of the final zoning plan,
whatever the regulations.
if they were going to
would
put a sign up.
require.
Is that right? Traffic assessments, that is not something that we approve. Does Hamilton County have a level of approval on this?
Thanks. They do have approval from a detailed standpoint, so traffic, access, stormwater, building.
Right. We're just the zoning part. We're not any of those other, we have no control over stormwater. We're not authorized to control those things.
That's correct, sir.
I mean, I know that. I'm just making sure everybody else does.
We're on the same page.
And what are the hours of operation?
It's 7 to 6.
So our hours vary. It depends on the job site. Sometimes the trucks need to be on site by 8, sometimes they need to be on site by 7, so it would depend on what job. they
Right,
were
and I
on.
think one of the issues that the neighbor's bringing up is they probably don't want to hear trucks idling, but your case is that you think you have enough sound barrier to prevent that.
Yes.
Let me ask about that, since you brought it up. So you have so you're going to build in a berm. How high is that berm going to be?
So the combination of berm and wall and plantings is going to be 6 to 7 feet tall from existing grade.
So the berm, and then what kind of wall is on top?
We haven't worked out the wall details yet.
But it's a solid wall, is that?
Solid wall.
And then the plantings will be in front of that?
So in front and behind.
We want to leave as many existing trees that are there. I love trees, that's my favorite thing is nature, so I mean, I want to leave as many existing trees that are able to stay on site there.
Okay, so in a typical day would be that if I worked for you driving and you were located there, I would leave my home in Colerain Township, drive there, pick up the truck, go to the job site, which might be an ODOT site, pick it up, make loads back and forth to the dump, or wherever dump is chosen, and then I bring the truck back. And then it's gonna be stored there overnight, is that the case? And you're talking, I think you said 5 to 7 vehicles?
Yes, we own 10.
Okay,
But half of my employees live on the east side, and then I'm going to allow them to continue to park and share as well.
okay.
So you can house 6 trucks. Is that what this is? So there's 3 garage bays, but is it a tandem?
My trucks park outside.
They are all
The
parked
garage
outside.
space is actually gonna be more just for to pull it in, to change a tire, to check seals. or
Okay, so
grease
they
it,
are
or
gonna be
something.
straight outside.
What is the offset between then the road and then where the trucks will be parked? Do you have an idea how?
From East Miami River
Yeah,
Road?
yeah.
So we're going to be 70 to 80 feet back from East Miami River.
Okay, and is there gonna be a site barrier there as well?
We hadn't planned on a sound barrier between us and the road.
Not even a sound, but just a site barrier?
There will be trees.
Is that in this, or is it the existing trees you're talking about?
We're going to keep the existing trees. Yeah, out
Okay.
front.
And looking at this, and all these documents are in our agenda, and anybody that's watching online, you can bring up our agenda and see it. It looks like it is the northeast corner of East Miami River Road and 27 in Colerain Township. So these houses, are they, and I certainly respect that the other ones are in Butler County, but I mean, is there any houses in Colerain Township that are in that corner? So you're the very tip of the because this map's even from our zoning, or our development director has a map that shows, it's from Fairfield Township Zoning Department, because it's that far north that's what you've included in the packet, so that's what I'm looking at right now.
The residents would be parallel to the residents, my neighboring residents, just a little bit further back, so the house would be next to her house on the back end of the property. And the shopping trucks would be towards the front.
So if this was to be approved, when would this happen?
So we would target a winter to spring construction
So this winter, 3 months from now?
at the earliest. I mean, we still have to get through final development and the county permits. So the fastest it would go would be 3 to 4 months to start.
And as it's 100% in Hamilton County, do you need anything from Butler County at all, or from the Army Corps of Engineers? It's not that close to the river?
No, we're not in the floodplain, and we're not in, we're not located in the floodplain, so we don't need anything from Army Corps.
It was brought up before, I think maybe Mr. Unger mentioned it, just to reassure people. Once it gets beyond this stage before the final plan, it does do, I know the two big ones are stormwater and traffic counts, right? From the county.
Through the county.
Yeah. The reason that we don't do it up front is that in case you lose traffic studies aren't cheap. You don't want to dump all that money up front, but it is taken into consideration by the county when the county gives their approval.
Yes, it is.
So you'll have to go to them to get your stormwater approved and your whatever traffic issues?
Yes.
And one of the other residents brought up, you've got what's on these plans that are in the agenda. And I realize you can't answer this, but one of the questions was, is there going to be more buildings built later on?
If you ever expand, she would have to come back through and get another permit.
Right.
We'd have to do this all over again.
And then we would have some history on your performance by then.
Right.
With Ms. Davis is saying, how much, with the tree line, you're not going to be able to see the trucks or the,
I'm not sure, we'd have to see
I'm
how
looking
much
at
of
it.
the tree line is
Yeah.
left once we get in and move everything that has to be moved for the buildings and
Mm-hmm.
structures. I'm completely fine if it requires putting additional trees on the property.
But we'd like to keep 40 to 50 feet of undisturbed buffer between us and the northern property.
okay.
And leave that alone, maybe supplement it with some additional plantings, and then closer to us, we would have the sound barrier.
And you intend to live there, and this isn't something you're going to build, and I realize circumstances change, but your intention is to live there on the site and not build a trucking company and then move somewhere else?
No, this is our family business. We've been doing it since '98. My intentions is being able to live there, and then I can supervise my daughter, hopefully, when she's running the office instead of me.
It's a decent-sized ranch, yes, it's nice bigger.
So any issues that would come up with it, I realize you can't commit to that, but you're going to be,
My intentions are to stay there.
and you're building part of this is a residential, you're going to build a new house on the site, or is there?
Here's the floor plans on.
Right.
Okay.
Well, those are the questions I jotted down based on the other testimony. Was there any other speakers, Kathy?
No, I think, did you want to say anything? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
So not seeing any other speakers, I would recommend closing.
Okay. Just state your name and address again. Thank you.
Vicki Sherritt, 7385 East River Road, Fairfield, Ohio, 45014. Sorry. The last meeting, they actually said 15 trucks, that they would have 15 trucks on site. It was zoned for small to large, or I'm sorry, small to medium, I think is what the zoning commission said, up to 15 trucks. When they said they have dump trucks, I did also see on social media that they were looking for tractor trailer drivers. So I don't know if that means some of the dump trucks are tractor trailer length. One thing I didn't bring up before, but she had brought it up. I did print something off of your guys' website that talks about how you want to keep things beautiful and green and have green spaces. And if you can pull up the PDFs, I thought that their plan was to have the sound barrier all the way around the property. And they said that they didn't know what kind yet. I thought that was talked about at the zoning meeting, and they were actually asking them the depth, how thick it was, and all the specs of it. I thought that was already on there.
I'm looking it up. Did you have other comments?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought
no,
you
that's
guys were
fine.
waiting
No.
for me, but. and
No, the
just
the engineered drawings are in the agenda.
Okay,
That's what
yeah,
I'm-
and I thought that it showed that a sound barrier was up against the road, and that's why we were asking about it, if it would be hidden. And they did mention that their driveway would be right across from the ramp so that they could get on and off. That's the on-ramp to River Road. You have to go
Right,
down
I'm
further into
familiar with,
Colerain.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
to get
familiar
onto
with it
the
up
River
there.
Road. And two, they also said that they were moving there because they'd be closer to where they get the commodities. So I don't, that's their business, but I just wanted to bring up another point that was brought up in the zoning meeting. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that? Okay.
I think our theme here is the cart before the horse. If you vote tonight to approve it and give them this, what is it, mixed use or whatever it is, then they only have to meet the requirements of that section of law. So if you approve it, before you make them dance and specify how many cars, what they're going to do with the wash, what they're going to do with the garbage, where are they going to store the garbage, are they going to have dumpsters for where they clean out their trucks on this property? And if we approve it now, then they got the ticket to move forward within that zoning regulation packet. If we keep them as a residential with a variance, or we send them back to the zoning board to address all these issues, then we can actually put it into their contract and limitations and say only 10 trucks are permitted, must have this, that, and the other thing. But if we do it now, we gave them the go-ahead to stay within that mixed use formula instead of the stricter residential formula with a variance. So I would ask minimally until these answers, you get answers on the water wellhead, the underground spring, the sound, all these questions, the number of trucks, the limitations. We need that in writing. And the only way to do that and guarantee it is by sending it back to the zoning commission for more work. And it will also address the issue of your due process problem. So that will kind of cover, if you send it back, them getting their due process covered so they can't come back and charge us a bunch of money to sue on it. So that's my suggestion, is send it back to the zoning commission and make them answer these questions more specifically and contractually.
Okay, thank you. Now, is that everybody for this public hearing?
I do have one other question I'd like to ask the property owner. The Bolton well field, is that owned by Cincinnati Waterworks?
I thought it's,
Because I don't think they would sell their land out.
Yeah, I don't know what the Bolton well field is. It's labeled Bolton Fields on it, but there's no recorded document that says.
Right, and that's not anything we can judge, because that's not, we're just talking about zoning, but it's been brought up, and I just wanted to know.
If it's an issue, then we'll deal with it. And if it derails the project, then it does. You know,
Right.
if this property is encumbered because there's a well.
Well, I guess, did you buy it from an individual, or?
It was an agent, but they spoke to the individual. They didn't.
Right, but I mean, it's not property that's owned by the city waterworks.
It's not property owned by the city.
Okay.
No.
No,
Because
the wellhead is though, and it's on the document, whether you raise me off or not, it's on the document.
well, these people were speaking, that's all.
Okay, well, I was answering your questions since they didn't know the answer.
It's not owned by the waterworks.
It's not owned by Waterworks.
Wellhead is owned by the waterworks.
Okay, that was my question, thank you. If that's all, I'll motion to close the
Okay.
public hearing.
okay. I'll second it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, now we're to citizens' address. I have Kathy Moore.
Good evening.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to recommend that when we have a public hearing, that you have a separate sign-in sheet for those people to speak so they don't all get mixed in together. I've noticed some improvements in the minutes, and I noticed that resolution numbers are included and change orders are brought before the board. And those are good things. I spoke to Mr. Waller about this at the Colerain Historical meeting about approving accurate minutes. He supports that. I've brought up several instances where the minutes are incorrect, and I have asked for correction, but you refused to address the issue. You approved incorrect minutes. On August 22nd, the board held an executive session with employee Jared Allig present. Then, after the meeting, Mr. Allig requested to speak to the board. He questions if the board had received notification to text amendments he emailed to Mr. Miller and Mr. Weckbuck. There was no mention of him questioning anything. It's like he wasn't there. And I think anybody who takes the time to come to our meeting and give some comments or ask a question should be in the minutes. Have you ever looked at the minutes that are in that are stored back here? They go back probably to the 1800s, maybe.
Yes, I have.
Okay, you might want to read some and how they are done. And have you ever watched your video of your meeting? You might want to do that too. It's your responsibility to read, which I don't see how possibly any of you do that, to make sure the minutes are accurate. I have some things that were mentioned in the minutes and some things that should have been mentioned in the minutes. Trustee Waller did give a reminder that high school football is back, and Trustee Unger gave a plug to Furniture Fair. In the minutes, Mr. Gubser, Ralph Gubser, spoke about speeding on Sovereign, and he asked for a traffic study. And that's all it said. But watching the video, developers are looking to put up barriers. A traffic study is where it would begin. And then Mr. Unger talked to the chief about speed readers, and he would like to see more permit zones for food trucks. And Ms. Mays reported on the current status of Welch gravel, and it was cost prohibitive for the permit. He'll not be moving forward. But then it wasn't in the minutes that the communication specialist had been working on the website. A presentation was made, and there are several upgrades, and it will allow different languages. Mr. Unger made a plug for Furniture Fair, and Dana Gagnon was appointed the new executive director at Waycross. But it didn't mention anything about the opioid recovery board. Colerain should have someone on the board. This is what was said. Mr. Weckbach shared that a trustee position will be appointed by the Hamilton County Township Association. And then Mr. Unger reported on the dip on Phil Knoll. Public Works made the repair and commented on the progress on Cornwall. In the last minute of the meeting, Mr. Weckbach asked the board to authorize him to enter into an agreement with the Port Authority for strategic property acquisition. And that is not at the end of the minutes, but it is on a different page. But it does not actually say what the motion is. It just says this action would allow the township to draft an agreement with the port for acquisition. So there was no motion to allow Mr. Weckbach to do that. And it just says, Mr. Wallert made the motion, Ms. Ulrich seconded.
Can we stop her? Your 5 minutes are up. Does anybody have a motion to?
I motion we give her 2 more minutes, please.
Thank you. And Mr. Unger voted no, and that's not even in here. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. It is. It's down here further. Also, there was, it was said that the police and fire were at the school openings welcoming kids with high fives. In the minutes, but it was not said, all properties are abated by the township and property taxes will be assessed, blah, blah, blah. There was a paragraph in there, but that had not been said at the meeting. In the minutes, a total of 49,061 square yards of roadway for this new sealant, and what was said was 49,000. Mr. Miller recommended adoption in regard to Pep Boys. There is a paragraph of rationale that was never said. I request again that the minutes be corrected to allow the true and accurate event. Just a suggestion, I always sent a copy of the minutes prior to approval to the department heads so they could correct anything that was incorrect in their area. It's just a suggestion. Appropriation increase, $20,000 for nuisance abatement as a result of increase in code enforcement. And my question for this is, where was that money appropriated for 2022 and 2023? Will this line item have a specific appropriation code and receipt code to keep an accurate record, or will this just be another other appropriation? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich McVeigh?
Evening.
Good evening, Board. Pleased to be with you. First of all, I'd like to start off with, based on everything I heard on this HJ hauling thing, I think it makes a lot of sense to send it back to zoning and get all the questions resolved and then move forward with everybody feeling comfortable about has transpired. Tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Sears purchase and Northgate Mall. Over the years, we've had many presentations around how we should redo that mall. We just had one recently, and I expect that you all really want to do something that sets it up as a kind of a prime spot for the township that people would enjoy seeing when it comes to fruition. And I applaud you for doing that. I think that any developer who approaches you has a pretty firm idea about what they want to do, and because they're investing their money. And when they approach the township, they know where the opportunities lie. And one thing they're trying to do in their discussions with you is to try to determine what's going to be the cost of their investment. That's what affects their rate of return. And the issues that drive their investment costs, primarily that are under your control, are your zoning codes. And I think that that's a fundamental issue that you're going to have to face. You're talking about mixed-use development. I don't think you have a code for mixed-use development. I think you're going to be behind the 8 ball if you don't have something like that put in place before you're meeting with developers. Now, I know you have a lot of things that you're working on, trying to figure out what you're going to do with the mall in the short term, but I think the long-term future of the mall is going to be tied directly to the zoning codes that you put in place. And you have vehicles to do that. You can put an overlay district on it that will essentially say that anything new that's put in there will have to agree to the codes that's in the overlay district. It's done all over. It's done in Sims Township, Springfield Township, Green Township. These overlay districts are common practice, and they're put in place so that they can do what you want to do, which is you've got an existing neighborhood, but you got new stuff coming in. Let's put in place the codes that are going to give us the kind of development that we want. The only leverage you have with the developer is your code. You know, it's their money and it's your code, and their intent is to find the cheapest way to get that installed so their rate of return is improved. I might suggest that if we had overlays in place that, in the case of Sovereign, Matt, we might have not had to give the developer a $1 million gift in order to get him to agree to not put rental housing in, which is what we did. I don't disagree with what you did, but if we had the overlay code in there that says you can't do that, we wouldn't have put in his road and his bridge. I think, I don't know, that had you had the code in place in the mall, you wouldn't have to spend the $2.5 or $3 million to purchase the Sears property. Let somebody else purchase it, and you just have the code in place, okay, that says when you build in this is what you have to do. Here's what happens. Let's look at the Beavis Pottinger site, okay? It's crowded, okay? What they've done is stuck in that site, 90 homes, very tight. And they're stick homes, okay? They're inexpensive. What's to prevent a developer to come in and say, I want to do that in your mall? And you're going to be sitting there with your dream, what you want to do something with, but you don't have the code, okay, to support your arguments that's not what we want to have in place. I think it's extremely important for you guys to spend the time, devote the staff resources, do the research around whatever people have done about overlays, and find out what you need to do so that when you meet with a developer, you have something strong in your hand that says, this is what we need to have for our township. Now, they will say, well, we'll talk to the neighbors. The land use people said we're going to talk to the neighbors, but I come back to the fundamental point. Every developer is coming in with their money, and their interaction with you is they're going to meet your codes, okay? But they're only going to meet them to the point that they get a good investment. The power you have around in bringing this mall to life as you want to, and I know you guys want to do that, is embedded in your codes. So I would encourage you to do that. One last thing I would say before I close. This resident is voting no on issue 1 and issue 2. And if you want to know why, just give me a call. I'm in the book. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh. Thank you for the points about the overlay, too.
All right, we go to administrative reports now.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carrie. I thought you were for the, I'm so sorry about that. Well, it says about the topic on tonight's agenda, and since you spoke on, I'm sorry, that was my fault. I should have asked you.
I'm not required to give you legal notice before I file a lawsuit, but I have attempted to talk to you all. I've had some exchanges with Jeff about the misappropriation of the Groesbeck Park property. I have sent him the statutes that prohibit you all from using property that was donated by a resident for a purpose other than what it was intended. I've talked to a former law director who confirmed, which I will not disclose to be nice to him, that you guys are well aware of the will and the deed restrictions that says that land must be used as a park for the residents of Groesbeck. So we cannot build the fire station there. The same person who gave the money, that property to the residents of Groesbeck, which I am one, also donated land for the fire department and for KFC and for the library and St. Anne's. And the KFC, that law director informed me, the KFC and the fire department both had to go through special processes in order to convert the lands the way they did because of these deed restrictions. I was informed that it's in the recorder's office documents, the deed restrictions, and that the township already has a copy of the will. So we're acting like we don't know this land was donated to the residents of Groesbeck for the specific purpose of a public, it doesn't say public, it says a park, and we're going to put the firehouse on it. I have asked to negotiate with them. I said, you show me how we can make the residents whole, and if you can propose something that I think is fair to my fellow residents, we can do that. I'm for a fire station. God knows they need it. I mean, where they have it, I mean, it's just terrible, the conditions they're in. I'm very pro fire station, but you don't get to take property from the residents of Groesbeck that was given to us. I sent Matt and Mr. Unger, we're evicting the Little Cards program from this property. We are telling them St. Anne's will help you out when all three of you know, we're all Catholic, we all know about the reorganization of the churches, and in all likelihood, St. Anne's won't be St. Anne's, and that property will be closed off. We're telling Little Cards, we'll let you play over at St. Anne's. We know that property is subject to a huge change, but we're not telling the Little Cards what's going on. So we're evicting these kids, which is one of the best programs in Colerain Township. I sent you gentlemen pictures, and I am afraid that if those faces were a little bit whiter, instead of a bunch of black kids, we wouldn't be throwing them out of our park. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children up there right now.
You know what? I've spent an entire 25 years in education teaching white and black students, so I'm completely offended by your characterization. Yeah, it's my job. I have one.
Well, I do have one. I own a company. I probably make more than you.
Oh,
so
I'm sure you
I don't know
do.
what you're talking about.
You make it up, yeah.
You know what
So to bring this in about racism is ridiculous.
Because race is in the picture I sent you. Now, why are you throwing hundreds of children out of that park who are using it 3 days a week to do a healthy, good, character-building activity with their parents sitting right there? So why the hell are you throwing them out of that park so we can put a fucking firehouse up there?
Please leave your jailhouse language.
No, you're the one who raised your voice to me. I was respectful.
You were not respectful.
Respectful.
No, you were not.
Don't bring race up.
No, I
We are
will
not
bring race up.
racist.
It is an issue. We locked down that mall because some kids got off a bus. And you guys said they're wilding at Northgate Mall. Well, now we know that that is a racist language. Now, half those kids up there are black. And if that was St. James Park playing back there or St. Anne's, you would not be closing that park. Now, I am willing to sit down and negotiate with you guys for a fair and equitable solution so the fire department gets what they need and these kids don't get the shaft. But otherwise, you got your legal notice. I've talked to the law director. I've talked to the previous board members who have great memory of what happened, and we can go to court. And your disrespectful throwing it in the garbage shows your attitude. You don't care about these kids.
No, that's right. I've spent 25 years teaching, and I don't care about kids.
What are you doing for them today? You're throwing them out of park they've been using for over 20 years and telling them, go figure it out yourself, kid. What are you doing for them?
Stop the yelling.
You're a race baiter.
I'm not a race baiter. I'm not a race baiter. I'm giving you the facts, and I sent you the picture.
You sent me a picture of what?
Of the kids
people
up
in
in
a
the
park?
park. The kids up in the park, the cheerleaders, the football players, the parents, hundreds of people. I recommend you go up there on a Tuesday or Thursday evening and watch that wonderful program.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Gary. All right. Did anybody else for a citizen address that did not fill out a form? Okay.
All right, board. For administrative reports, I'm actually going to address some issues that have been raised. I have spoken to Ms. Davis. I have shared with her that we have explored and done a full title.
Are you racist?
I'm not a racist person. We have done a full title search on the property, and there is nothing that indicates that we cannot use it for the purpose as indicated. I've requested her to provide documentation.
It's like a racist search.
I've requested her to. I've requested her to provide.
That's doctor, by the way.
I've requested her to provide.
Have fun in jail.
If I may, I've requested her to provide documentation that shows where we cannot do this. We have
kid,
not seen
let
any
Let
documentation.
Mr. Wackbach speak.
So I've requested documentation that she alleges exists. I have not seen any to date, and so for that reason, And as I stated, we did a title search and there was nothing there. Further, Alan Walls has actually done a yeoman's work working with Little Cards. He's secured them, working with some partners, a new contract for a new field that will be space for them. So I do want to commend and applaud Alan for that work, because that was not something that was required of him, but we do care deeply about those kids. And for that reason, we've been working for over a year to find them a new practice facility. Alan has gone far out of his way to work with different property owners. They have an agreement that they've been working on together with St. Anne's that will memorialize all of this. And so that's not going to be between the township and us. That's going to be between Little Cards or Colerain Youth Football and St. Anne's. But there's been a ton of work that's gone into this to make sure that this is a great project for the entire community.
Show me the solution, I'll be happy.
You're out of order. Your time's up.
So just in terms of administrative reports, I just wanted to go on the record to state that we have done title searches. Nothing in the title that indicated that we cannot do this. There have been claims that have been unfounded that suggest otherwise. We've spoken to basically anyone you can name, and no one seems to have the same recollection of events as a resident who just spoke has. Unfortunately, that is where we are on this issue. But I do think that this is still going to be a very positive thing for our community. It's going to result in time savings when we do our fire runs. It's going to result in a new area for practices for the Little Cards field, an area that's actually bigger than what they have to date. And overall, I think that this is a win-win-win all around. So I do appreciate the work that Alan has put into this. Again, there were times where the patience was a little trying, but he persevered and continued on, because we do care for every member of our community, and we want to make sure that some of our programs are able to continue. And that would conclude my administrative reports. I think that's all.
Was
the
there any
administrative
police or
reports.
fire
No more,
report?
Nope, I believe that's
was
it.
Chief going to come up and, Walls was going to come up and say?
No, just,
No?
we don't normally do that at
Everybody
these
did?
meetings.
Okay. All right, I guess it's time then for the trustee report. Who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay.
This weekend at Donna Schwaben is the
Yes.
Donna Schwaben Oktoberfest. I apologize to anyone in the room for the language that you heard. That's not typical of these meetings, and it doesn't need to be that way. And in addition, I believe we are all created in the image of God, and I don't see race, and I don't care to hear somebody coming in here and insinuating anybody with our organization or anybody in the audience thinks that way. We are all God's children, and I'm not going to get an argument with her. And I apologize for the yelling that you all had to hear. And I'll just leave it at that because the meeting's getting long.
Okay, I'm going to start on a positive note. We had the recycle day Saturday, and the cars were lined up starting at 7. They were there before 7:30. I'm just going to. I want a terrific shout out for all those people organized it. It was such an organized yard waste, motor oil. I happened to be in the non-recyclables. We filled up a dumpster in less than 30 minutes. Lots of mattresses and lots of brown furniture people were redoing. So there were so many wonderful volunteers, hardworking. It was an enormous success. So thank you for everybody that participated in it and volunteered for it. So hopefully a lot less mattresses on the side of our roads. So that was a wonderful thing for Colerain Township. The second wonderful day we're going to have is on October 7th. It's the Give Back Day. I was going to ask Chief to talk about it because I do believe the firefighters are part of this program. So you can call if anybody wants to volunteer for any of the people working cooperatively. Again, that is Saturday the 7th. And another wonderful thing we're doing is our Veterans Dinner Dance. It was a huge success last year. We had almost 40 veterans. They all got to speak about what branch of the service, what they did during their time in that service. It was a beautiful night. So I would encourage anybody that has a veteran in their family to sign up. It's a free event, dinner, right? And so it starts at 4:30 on November 30th, and it'll be at our senior center. And talk about another wonderful event in Colerain Township as I went last Friday to the Chamber of Commerce that recognized the Policeman of the Year and several firefighters. I do believe Steve Carwish, who has 31 years, that was honored at that breakfast. And I thought Chief Wells was going to talk about Blake Riemann and Roger Sauerwan, who has over 50 years of service. They were both honored. And they had wonderful speeches, very heartfelt. But one of the things that wasn't said, and how I felt when I watched all these people that were honoring their family, friends, is that thank you for making us feel safe. I feel safe in this room with Ed. I feel safe. I go out on the street. I feel confident when I call 911. I have got the backing that's going to help me out. So thank you for making all of us feel safe. And I can almost cry about that one. And also, I wanted to thank our fire department for our police department. We had some residents last week about on memory, and Lieutenant Jamie Finley worked diligently and resolved this issue. And when we talk about our police force, when there is an issue in your neighborhood, please call our police. They are there to help you. We don't want any violence, because that could have come to a bad situation. Well, it did. It came to some pushing and shoving and punching, but they resolved it. And thank you for resolving that. I think those neighbors are just so happy now. And I also want to take another shout out to our police. I am a realtor, and it was October Safety Month, and Chief Denny has come to our office, and actually Chief Alan Wells has come to our office to give us safety tips over the years. Well, this year we got to come here, and they took we tour of the police station, and all our people got to meet the dogs, and we got a lot of wonderful tips, where to buy mace or what we should do in our situation. So I want to thank you that for another successful year of teaching us safety tips. And last, when I've just been overhearing some negativism about the $2.2 million that we spent for Sears, and we're coming up with a police levy. I just wanted to give a fact out there about that if we applied all that money to the police levy, it would only save 1/10 of $1 million. So it's not anything we had the money to. We have a gap of $4 million. So it was only going to touch a little bit of that. So I think we're doing the right thing with Northgate Mall and trying the redevelop of our central business district.
All right. I don't apologize for the shouting. Just to defend myself, I think, I've given $30 years to education. Black kids, white kids, Asian kids. It doesn't matter to me. This job is not worth that. To sit there and take that abuse. Yes, she's a voter, but I'm a person. I've spent my entire life coaching, teaching, trying to mold young men and women. And when you come at me with that BS, I'm gonna fight it. The same way I'll fight for the children that I've coached and I've taught and I've stood up there for. It's wrong. It's wrong to use that pulpit to try to do that to someone. And I'm gonna fight it every time. That's it.
Hey, Kathy, I did have a little bit more follow-up on the, we have done a title search on that, and I have personally read through a number of documents, including documents from March 30th, 1967, when the Colerain Civic Association made an amendment to the process from March of '61. Anybody who doesn't know or hasn't been to the recorder's office, it's a marvelous place full of absolute great history of everything that's gone on in Hamilton County the last 100 years. We have searched through all of that, and whatever these documents are that are claimed to exist, they don't. For something to exist, it needs to be recorded. When you buy a house, you pay a little extra for a title search, and you have a professional title search, much like we've done with this. And I've read through the documents myself. I find nothing in there in reference to what Mrs. Davis has said, so.
And she has been asked to produce that, and she has not.
And they're not, and you as a Realtor, you know that something has to be recorded.
It has
And
to.
if it's not recorded, it's not recorded, so. But those are, thank you for the additional time.
Okay.
Okay, board. Yep, new business tonight. We'll start with public safety, and that will be Chief Ed Cordy from the police department.
Good evening.
Hi, good to see your smiling face.
All right. Item A, resolution declaring a nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution allows for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and or refuge at the following properties: 3030 Sheldon, 11589 Pippin Road, 11607 Green Ridge Drive, 3838 Cartwheel Terrace, 10297 Cheltenham Drive. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we would approve the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the properties as described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second.
Nope, notice, none from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item B, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 2968 Compton Road. There's 5 vehicles at this property. The first one is a 2003 silver Chevrolet Trailblazer. The second, a 2003 white Acura Legend. The third is a unknown year silver Acura Legend. Guess they like that car. Fourth is a 2000 blue Volkswagen Jetta. And the fifth is a 2001 blue Dodge Ram 1500. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring those vehicles located at 2968 Compton Road as junk motor vehicles.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yes, no, I'll pass on the discussion. No discussion on this item.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item C, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 6655 Daleview. There's 2 vehicles on this property, the first being a 2010 gray Dodge Journey, and the second is a 2001 white and blue Dodge Cargo Van. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the vehicles located at 6655 Daleview Road as junk motor vehicles as described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I would just, since we put the junk car ordinance in 2 years ago, we have cleaned up a tremendous amount of, not we, or the whole team has, and the police department has. We don't want junk vehicles in people's driveways. And we give you, this doesn't mean we're taking it tomorrow. This gives you notice to do something with it, make it operable or get it moving along. And I commend the PD and everyone involved in working hard to make the community a little better. No other discussion.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 9797 Stadia Drive. 1 vehicle on this property is an unknown year trailer. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
Motion to declare a junk motor vehicle 9797 Stadia Drive.
Second.
No discussion.
No discussion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item E, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10703 Pottinger Road. 1 vehicle on this lot, 2003 blue Pontiac Vibe. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the vehicle located at 10703 Pottinger Road as a junk motor vehicle as described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
None.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item F, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3265 Deshler Drive. 2 vehicles on this property, first being a 2009 gold Honda Odyssey. Second is a 2010 silver Mazda Tribute. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
Motion to resolve declaring junk motor vehicles at 3265 Dashler Drive.
Second.
No discussion.
No discussion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief Cordy. The next item of new business is in the Public Services Department, and that will be presented by Assistant Administrator Tiffany Mays.
Good evening.
Hello, Board. Thank you. The next item is on your agenda packet on page 30. It is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a contract with Custom Landscape Contractors for the 2023 Street Tree Program. The Township advertised the street program and received 2 responses. The bid tabulation can be found in your packet. Staff is recommending the decision to go to Custom Landscape Contractors due to an incomplete packet received from the other vendor. While this project is higher in cost, it still is under budget. The project is funded at $200,000, while the bid came in at $100,835.16. Staff recommends approval of the motion. Alternatively, the trustees could consider rejecting both bids and issuing a new bid packet.
To get it to the floor, I will make a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a contract with Custom Landscape Contractors for the 2023 Street Tree Program.
I'll second it. So we'll discussion.
So I'm just curious, we're getting into the cooler weather. When is the optimal time to plant trees?
Right now is actually the optimal time up until about the end of November.
And that's, I just wanted to get that out there. I know I talked to you about that last week.
And they did, the recommendation, that vendor did include a timeline, which would get us into that window. The other vendor did not.
Okay.
Right, and as you get into cooler weather and you get, we've had some nice, very dry weather lately, but the ground doesn't dry up as quickly when the weather's cooler, so I think that would help the plants the trees get established, being planted in cooler, damper weather.
And it'll give them the winter time to grow their roots stronger. So when spring comes, then they'll be a little bit more sturdy. Then planting in the spring is actually not the most optimal time. Planting in the fall is.
I'm told you get 2 seasons for it to establish itself, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And the caliper of the tree, how large the trunk is also important for the health of the tree and its survival as well.
I was looking through this and just tell me, what is the service if the tree dies? I mean, how many months or if it doesn't come back, what is that? I was
They
just
have a
trying.
1-year maintenance obligation.
A 1-year maintenance obligation, okay. I was just trying to find that.
Yeah, and we're doing everything we can from our end. So in the bid, we designated the caliper size, planting in the fall. All of these things will prolong the longevity.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you.
No other discussion from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The next items on the agenda will be presented by Development Director David Miller.
Welcome back, Mr. Miller.
Thank you very much. So we are at the place in the agenda for considering a resolution that is applicable to the previous public hearing. And so this item is a resolution approving or denying. You have both before you. Zoning Commission case ZA 2023-11, which is a zoning map amendment for 7679 East Miami River Road from R2 to PDM, and recommendation is for approval.
So I have a point of information here. If we want to kick it back, because I have concerns about, and I think that the owners talked about too, not the noise as much as the vision, the visual and the setback, to work those details out. Would we want to approve it, deny it, or table it? How would that?
So visuals would be part of the landscape plan, I think is what you're referring to, which is all part of the final development plan.
Okay.
And I'm in agreement with you. There's some other specifications that I think need to be spelled out that were not in the package. That was in, Dan, do you have?
So would it go, if we approve or deny it, what sends it back from a legal point of view to our zoning board?
Well, you would be approving the zoning text amendment that is moving it from R, what do we say, R2 R2 to PDM.
Right.
Okay, so that is the preliminary development plan that you're approving, which is that zoning change. And then as they prepare a final development plan, that includes a landscaping plan, and that's where the zoning commission dives into the details and requires a certain level of landscaping and trees, and they will work with the owner and the presenter
So-
how to address those.
So one of my other concerns was the number of vehicles there. We heard the owner say it'd be 5 to 7. I might have heard earlier in your presentation, it could be up to 15.
That wasn't my presentation. It
Or
may have
somebody
been-
mentioned
Right.
that. So if it went back to
We're trying
zoning,
to formulate, if we can have all these things stipulated in the final.
I would want to have
package.
if it wasn't in your presentation, I would want to have a limit on trucks there.
Okay, so conditions would be allowed to be offered up at this time.
If we motion to approve it or deny it with conditions.
Right. As part of your packet, there are conditions on, if you'll look at the resolution, Exhibit A, number 1, that the final development plan indicates a wall on top of the berm. So that was one of the conditions that the zoning commission provided, along with the others that are there. They're fairly general, stipulate exactly what would be allowed to be built with those 3 structures. And so if you wanted to amend at this point, you could do that.
So from a procedural point of view, if I motion to approve it, then we can start listing off different things we would want to have addressed. And then it would either pass or fail among the 3 of us.
Correct.
Does that sound right, Mr. Recklock?
That's what we were just talking about, and I believe that you can change the conditions. I was asking our legal counsel if we're able to condition the number of vehicles, and if so, then that would be something you could consider including as a condition with approval. If you were to deny the case, I believe then it would be done, but then if they wanted to, say, refile with something completely different, they could go through that process with a completely different application.
Okay, so I'm going to, in order to get it to the floor here and pursue some of these things, motion to approve, now I've lost it.
Case file, it's right here.
Yeah, motion to approve zoning commission, approve zoning commission case ZA 22311, zoning map amendment for 7679 East Miami River Road from R2 to PDM. And I'll need a second, but then we can talk about other conditions at that point, I think.
Okay, I'll second it to get to the floor. We should have done that first.
So I heard the owner, so one of the conditions for me would be I heard the owner say 5 to 7 trucks. And I guess I've seen HJ hauling trucks before. Is that what you said? And there would never be more than 10. So I would motion that we would amend it, that there would not be more than 10.
Dump trucks. And I noticed on your website, you say you're a dump truck for hire company. So concerns about other trucks. I mean, they are a dump truck and you haul refuse from projects away. That's your business. It's not like taking Coca-Cola across state lines or something like that.
10 trucks, no matter who owned them, Matt, is that what you're saying?
No, 10 dump trucks.
Right, 10 dump trucks.
Yeah.
And if 5 of them belong to another company, then that counts towards the 10?
I think that the number is the important thing.
And what are you talking about, the size and length of the truck not being a semi?
Well, calling it dump trucks.
Well, it'd be something that's over 26,000 pounds.
Okay,
Would be a Class A dump truck.
okay, so that, just stipulate that.
So I would stipulate that there be no more than 10 Class A, 10 commercial vehicles over 26,000 pounds.
And I want to also stipulate that I don't know what's going on with this well field, but we certainly.
I don't think that's ours to.
Okay.
I think they said that's gonna be in the file.
Okay.
for just
And I do want to do something with the offset from the from the street on people seeing and looking at
Right.
these dump trucks with additional, I mean, I don't know how much landscaping's there now.
What would that be? Because I think we need to be specific, or don't we?
If it's a condition that you would like to require, you should be as specific as you can, especially if it's not something that's currently contemplated on the final.
A plan
development-
abating,
preliminary development plan.
a plan, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, a plan abating, abating the visual, the.
Landscaping.
Landscape, yeah, a plan,
Beautification.
yeah. I don't,
I saw there's a landscaping, I mean, the berm's already in there.
Landscape plan is part of the final development plan.
right, then the final development I want to see, I think, I'd like to add as an addition that we see a setback to shield the dump trucks and stuff from the road, so that you just don't drive up and see dump trucks lined up. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm not a planner, so.
If you'll bear with me, I'll try to pull up a copy of the submitted plans which show the landscaping.
It had the amount of trees and
germane to this
different
conversation, so.
specifications on it.
So this is on page 44 of the agenda packet. You can see their proposed landscape plans. My computer is just taking its time.
Just looking through the rest of my notes that I took.
Sometimes these are a little difficult because they're sideways and.
So projector should be warming up, and then I'll pull it over there for you all to see. But what I'm seeing is they've got planned some sea green juniper trees. It looks like Allegheny viburnum, or viburnum. Sorry, I'm not a tree expert. So Cupertina 9-bark, gray owl juniper, and velvet cloak smoke trees along the front of the property. Here, I'll pull it over here so that we can all see what I'm looking at. So, oops.
And from the rendering, that's going to be a brick garage, correct? The facade? It just looks like bricks from, yeah. Okay.
So Matt, to what you're requesting up here, this is the northern boundary.
Yeah.
So this is the Fairfield line. These are the trees that I just described that they had called out on their initial plan that are toward the front of the property. There is not necessarily anything on this side of the property, but I don't understand the topography just offhand with where the road sits in relation to this, if it's right up against each other or not. So.
Okay. Okay.
27 is cut down, so we're 10, 15 feet above 27 level up to our property. There's an existing line of trees along our western edge that we weren't going to mess with. And then along the front edge, you can see those individual trees called out, but there's a juniper hedge also. That's that green shaded area between the trees.
Okay.
With two different types of junipers, but yes.
And the garage is the front building and the house is behind it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's, we're looking at, she's going to have the river view from that.
Right.
That's why I was saying there's just why there are no tree lines.
Right,
behind it,
okay.
with the river.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay.
So my modification is that there's no more than 10
Trucks, 27.
vehicles over 26,000 pounds, whether or not they're operable. If there's one there that they're working on, that counts as one of the 10. And if it's somebody else's truck, it counts as one of the 10.
Let's work it.
Okay. And then clarification on Mr. Wallert, so a landscape plan that would shield traffic from the trucks? Okay.
So I guess I will motion to adopt the amended.
Which sends it back to zoning for you to get these details. And
No,
then,
this is part of your resolution.
okay.
With that.
I mean, it sends it back for the final development plan.
Yes,
and
it would go back to the zoning commission for review and approval of a final development plan.
And it will still need to go to the county for.
That is correct.
Especially the stormwater and traffic.
Right. And so I think your motion would need a second and a vote on that.
I will
amendment.
second Matt's motion with the amendments we just discussed.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes. Thank you. Good luck and welcome.
And
Okay.
just want to make sure, clear, that that vote was for the amended item.
Right.
Right, okay. Or just the amendment. All right, next item is a motion to set a public hearing for October the 10th at 6 p.m. That's the time of the meeting begins. Public hearing would begin at that point when the trustees come back from executive session, if so one is so called.
So we have that October 10th, 6 o'clock is the capital.
Yeah, it'd probably be cleaner to motion to set a public hearing on October 10th at 7 p.m. for Zoning Commission KZA 2023-12.
All right, with that in mind, I'm going to motion to set a public hearing for October 10th, 2023 at 7 p.m. for Zoning Commission KZA 2023.12 zoning text amendment to prohibit recreational marijuana.
I'll second. Any discussion?
No.
No?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Then the last item under development is an update and discussion of the Sears purchase. So there's been a little bit of that tonight, but just to review, the township did, through our CIC, closed on the purchase of the Sears building on Monday, September 25th. The Hamilton County Land Reutilization Corporation is holding and managing the building on our behalf per the master holding agreement. It is currently partially occupied by Spirit Halloween until first week of November. And so it looks like they'll should be open this week through that particular point when they'll exit. It is currently, the lease payments, apportioned to our ownership during that time that they're there after, starting with yesterday, will be used to cover any operating expenses such as utilities on the building. So the Port Authority will hold those in retainage for us and then use those for a period of time until they are used up. Today I took 4 demolition companies on site and through the building in an effort to secure a scope of work and estimates for taking the building down. We will provide them those estimates to the Port Authority, who will submit them as part of our grant application to the state for demolition and environmental remediation grants. So we hope to be successful with that. The state will open their portal sometime in October for those grant submissions. And so we're hoping to have all of this information together by the end of September and submitted to the state. And we can begin the process of putting together those funds for demolition. There are a number of problems, certainly with the building. It is in we think, a significant state of blight. There are numerous problems. We were able to get access to the roof, and it was surprising the condition of the roof. It is a flat rubber roof, and the seams are in poor condition. And I think that exemplified why there was a significant amount of water in the store on the floor here a few weeks ago. So that's as much as I would provide, I guess, at this point, unless the administrator, Mr. Weckbach, has anything, or if you have questions.
Point of clarity for the public. So when we apply for these grants, it has to be in by December, and we wouldn't hear probably till June or July if we get those grants for demolition.
I haven't seen the program details yet. That's what these dollars were provided in the budget that was passed by the General Assembly, dated June the 30th of this year. And so our Port Authority here locally is the recipient agent of those funds, so they'll be the ones that'll be distributing those eventually. But those program guidelines have been waited upon since, in essence, June 30 for the Ohio Department of Development to create those. And so they haven't been provided to us. The Port Authority told us in the last couple days that that's the basic timeline, is that it's going to open sometime in October. So they still didn't have specificity on when we would be able to submit our application for those grants. And so that's our goal, is to get all of our data compiled and be ready to submit as soon as that portal opens, so that we are first in line or as early as possible. And then it is a little bit of time that it takes for them to review and then notify. So that don't have a clue really at what that timeline is at this point.
In some of our demolition, we're talking about scrapping some of the material and so trying to sell some things to offset some cost also.
There's definitely plenty of items that can be salvaged for a variety of purposes. Notice just lots of shelving still in there. There's clothes racks. There's a lot of steel that can be repurposed and sold for scrap. And so I think, there'll be some money clearly that'll come back to offset the eventual costs.
Great.
And some of the companies that we've talked to specialize in that. They know how to repurpose, and so we will go through a full public RFP process at the appropriate time when it's time for us to put that out. This was just a preliminary request to for companies to provide that rough estimate of what it would cost to help us in submitting that application.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Board, the next 3 items on the agenda will be presented by Assistant Administrator Jeff McElravy.
Mr. McElravy, welcome.
Good evening.
So, the next item on the agenda is the next step in the 2024 budget process. And this is to set a special meeting of the Board of Trustees for October 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. before the regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting to have a work session to discuss the capital budget. Staff recommendation is adoption of the motion.
I'll motion to set special meeting of the Board of Trustees for October 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m. For the work session on capital budget, as required by our rules of the Board of Trustees.
I will second it.
Any discussion?
None.
None?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
The next motion is to authorize the Township Administrator to execute an agreement with Zix for Microsoft Office 365 licenses for $29,984.70. These licenses are the method by which we are able to access the suite of applications that we use throughout the township through Microsoft Office. So staff recommendation is adoption of the motion.
I motion that we authorize the Township Administrator to execute agreement with Zix for Microsoft Office 365 licenses for $29,984.70.
I'll second. And any discussion?
Yes, I think that it's not us. This whole computer licensing business is what Microsoft has done from the time you could buy a computer that had a program built into it, and now you get these rotating or revolving leases. They've really dominated the market, and hopefully somebody develops a better way to do this.
And it seems
this is
each
crazy spending this kind of money.
Each
We have
upgrade
no
gets more
choice.
complicated, yeah.
We have no choice if we want to have
Yeah.
computers, but it's just, and that's from the guy that still has his one in the closet that had Windows 98 on it, just because I can't figure out how to get those old pictures
I
off
think
of
that's
it.
the best one. Windows 98.
It's got pictures of Grandma on it, and I don't know how to get them out of there.
Put your little disc in there and then transfer it.
No, I put it on the shelf in the basement. I don't know what else to do with it. But it's just getting, the pricing on that is just getting way out of control, Microsoft, if you're listening, so. I'm sure they are. No more comments from me.
Ms. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
The next item on your agenda is on page 137 of the board packet. The Board of Trustees established a series of new TIF districts, and as part of the creation of those districts, there are accompanying agreements with the Northwest Local School District in order to hold them harmless as a result of the creation of the TIF. And what this amendment of appropriations resolution would do is to increase appropriations in 4 funds in order to be able to make those compensation payments to Northwest Local for the first half of 2023 and as well as the second half as well. So that would increase appropriations in Fund 2913, the Abbeytown TIF, by $550. It would increase appropriations in Fund 2914, the Hunter's Ridge TIF, by $26,000. It would increase appropriations in Fund 2915, the Lake Gloria TIF, by $12,000. And it would increase appropriations in Fund 2916, the Crowsley Meadows TIF, by $200. Staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
I motion we adopt the resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations.
Second.
Any discussions?
Sure. There's been people that have come during the citizens' comment portion of our meetings that have complained that we have not made the school district whole on these tax increment financing districts, and this is just another example of the school district being made whole.
That's correct.
Yeah, previous to my time on the board, it wasn't always that way, and that was one of the first things we started in 2018, was making sure they were involved in all the discussions that went on. So I know we've had comments at previous meetings where we're taking things away from the school district, and in fact, we are not. So that's my comment.
I agree with you.
Ms. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next couple items will be presented by Assistant Administrator Mays.
Really come. We should plant trees today. The rain.
Welcome back.
Somebody walking up behind you.
Yes, these are my guests today. For the next item on the agenda, the information can be found on page 37 of your agenda packets. And it is a resolution supporting an application for the 2023 Clean Ohio Conservation Fund, NRAC 2, for the Denier Preserve Project. And here from Cardinal Land Conservancy, I have a couple guests that would give a very brief description of that project and what the grant will be funding.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Sat patiently back there.
So, you guys know how to throw a party here.
It's not always,
That's what we're
most of our meetings are pretty calm. You just
Listen, you
picked
know,
a good one.
I'll talk about, a good project that I think the citizens can support. I'm the executive director of Cardinal Land Conservancy. We're a nationally accredited land trust, and we're a private nonprofit 501c3 corporation. We started almost 25 years ago as a citizens land conservancy for Hamilton County. And we've now grown. We work all over Southwest Ohio and a little bit in Northern Kentucky. So we're a land trust, and we preserve green space, open space, and agricultural lands. We own almost 1,000 acres, and we have agricultural easements on another 8,000 acres where we preserve family farms. Recently, it came to our attention that there's a really unique piece of property over here, and the Denier family recently lost their father, and we would like to work with them to preserve his legacy by applying for a grant. And this property is right across from Colerain High School on Pool Road. It's 14 acres of basically all open space. There's a couple buildings on it. It used to be an old fish hatchery, right, a goldfish hatchery, a long time ago. And I know kids from Colerain High School used to go and visit the place on field trips 40 years ago. Our goal would be to, as part of the grant process, and us being a private nonprofit, Ohio Revised Code mandates that we get a formal resolution of support from local government and county government. So we're here to support a resolution, not money from you, but so that we can apply for the grant and hopefully get funded so we can purchase this property, restore it to, it's a wetland property because it was a wetland first and then got turned into a fish hatchery. So we want to bring that back to being a restored wetland. It's a habitat oasis. It's a great stopover site for birds among all the houses and rooftops around. And there's a historical record of a state endangered snake that's there, the Kirtland snake. So it looks like a garter snake, but it's got a red belly. It's pretty cool. So we want to apply for the grant, restore it, and have it open to the public. And again, at no cost to you guys, but just have it as a nature preserve.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you. I got to look up the Kirtland snake.
Yeah, does it eat moles and mice?
Yeah.
I want
or
one.
the little lizards.
Oh, I want the lizards.
It's small, so the little lizards made.
Yeah.
Does the board have any other questions?
I'll motion to get it to the floor so we can discuss it. I'll motion that for a resolution supporting an application to the 2023 Clean Ohio Conservation Fund, NRAC2, for the Denier Preserve Project for 13.97 acres in Colerain Township.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
So, does this fit with our long-term land use plan, and does the zoning work for that?
I believe as open space, it falls into some different zoning criterias, but if they were to make adjustments or amendments to the property, then we would have to go through zoning, but I'm not quite sure that they're going to need to make those wholesale adjustments, but we'd certainly double check.
Ian, I spoke to you earlier today. There's one of the things I'm always afraid of is adding new expenses onto our plate, and it's something that Great Parks is going to take care of. And
Cardinal Land Conservancy.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. We will not be paying for the property moving forward, is my understanding. So.
And is the 13.97 acres, is that the whole parcel as it's always been, or is the family keeping another portion of the same land?
It's the whole parcel. I mean,
So
you
where's
can
the
see there's a piece carved out in the front that's not included in this. It has a big elect Matt Wallace sign.
You probably better.
I don't know who those are, but
Is that property owned by the same person?
Yes, I think it is.
Well, you probably better.
Yeah, I know.
Abstain. The
That's not part of their parcel.
Okay, so that's a different.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
It's carved out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not the 13.97 acres where his stuff is.
That's a Dernier, though, that owns that.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the 3 children.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I
They
don't.
want this to put it back to.
That's right. And this is kind of what, and Kristen is here tonight with us. So, it's something their father always liked, enjoying the nature of the place. And, we'd like to help bring that legacy back and restore it and let people enjoy the place.
And restore it to put trails so people can walk through, or when you talk about
That's
restore?
right. Our goal is to restore it's a natural wetland.
Right.
But we do want to have walking trails throughout the property. It's only 13 acres, so it won't take that long.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can raise additional funds, we'd like to have a inclusive access trail, like a hardened gravel trail for chairs.
So your organization would own this, and the family would no longer have an ownership stake in it?
That's right.
Okay. I've got all my
Checking our
information.
zoning tables just real fast for you all. In all residential zoning districts, passive parks and conservation areas are permitted uses.
Okay.
And board, with the Clean Ohio grant, if it is awarded to the Cardinal Conservancy, there are restrictions on what they can and cannot develop on that property. The grant is basically to restore it to its natural state, and you can only add parking and trails.
Okay.
Are there buildings on the property right now?
There are buildings. So there's like an old fish hatchery, garage size, and they ran Denier Electric is a building in the back.
Right.
That we don't have a plan for using those.
But they're done, they're not using it for commercial electric purposes once you get your hands on it. So
They're selling dust.
that might be where you put your lawn equipment or
Yeah, and
maintenance. You might use it as a maintenance building.
If you guys have ever built a restroom, they're expensive, and they have a newer functioning septic and a place where people can use the bathroom. So that's definitely a bonus.
Very
in our-
nice of the family to consider donating it.
Thank you.
And I think it makes a great idea with the high school right across to have those curriculum tie-ins. Yeah, that's
I have no other-
fantastic.
I have no
Another
other,
reason for people to come to Colerain Township.
I have no other comments.
No.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming here tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. And the last item under administration is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute an amendment to the concession agreement. This information can be found on page 42 of your packets. On August 1st of 2022, the Township entered into an agreement with Timothy Harris to operate the concession stand at Colerain Park. The original agreement states that the operation of the concession service should make monthly payment installments, and those are to continue year-round. Staff has identified that the operation of the concession stand would not be possible from November 1st through April 1st due to the structure being winterized for the season. This amendment identifies this issue with language to reflect the expected operating months. Staff recommendation is an adoption of the motion.
A motion to authorize Township Administrator to execute an amendment to the concession agreement.
I'll second. Any discussion?
None.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes,
Thank you, Board.
thank you.
Thank you, Board. That concludes new business. We have one item of old business. This was introduced last meeting by Chief Ed Cordy, and that is a resolution establishing a code enforcement review board. I would recommend adoption of that resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all have on what that board is or how it will function.
To get it to the floor, I'll motion that we approve a resolution establishing a code enforcement review board.
And I'll second.
Discussion.
And how would we go about appointing members to that board?
Yep, so the bylaws that are included in the packet are going to have the fiscal officer, each of the trustees, and the administrator all appoint one individual to the board. In terms of that process, I was going to speak with each of you all individually about how you would like to handle your process. We could post it as a call for applications for boards and commissions, and we could ask folks to tell us if they're applying for, say, the Matt Wallard or the Kathy Ulrich or whatever that is. Or if you all wanted to handle your own processes in a different way, then that's something for us to discuss. I know for the administrator spot, I plan on posting it as a call for boards and commissions and soliciting applications.
I think we should all be consistent with that personally.
When would you look to have this established? The first quarter or?
Yeah, so the goal would be for it to be up and running in Q1. Odds are we'll go through a 60-day or so period of call for applications. Each one of us will review those applications. We'll make some appointments, hopefully either in Q4 or Q1. Q4 of this year, Q1.
We would review our own
You'd
applications.
review your
and-
own to decide who you would like to select. And then there would probably need to be some training with, the first couple meetings would be training with the code enforcement staff and the newly appointed board on how it should operate. That's going to involve the law director and others to make sure that we're following all the, the basics of open meetings as well as the basics of the intent in the bylaws of this board.
So this application process, I'm Joe Public, Colerain here, and I want to apply. Does it all go into one pool? Is that what you're suggesting, or?
I think that was the suggestion that was made, is we put the call out, all of them go into one pool, and then I can get all the applications to you all. If someone were to say, hey, I want Matt Wallert to appoint me, then you all could consider that.
Okay.
We might get in a precarious position if, say, all three of us or all five of us want to appoint the same people, then yeah, that might be a little problematic, but we can cross that bridge if we get there.
I mean, I can see where there's a stack of applications, and I'm like, I like applicant A based upon, and maybe, Ms. Ulrich does too, and she's like, well, but I kind of like C too.
Oh, I think we could all communicate that through Jeff. I mean,
Okay.
You can pick yours, I'll pick mine.
Okay.
And Dan, and we just all communicate through. Since we
But I want there to be
consistency.
a process that's.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah.
So we will post that online, we'll solicit applications, and when we close that period, I will get those to all of you all once that application period closes.
Okay.
And the purpose of this will be to speed up our code enforcement process.
Well, and the purpose is to provide a pathway toward enforcement of some of our limited home rule resolutions that have been a little more tricky to enforce.
But also, it seems like another step to mitigate the problem before you get all the way to the.
Yes, it would provide the property owners with some due process so that they could come before this board to explain, hey, I'm not a rental. I know somebody may have filled me out and you all are saying I am, but I'm not a rental. Here's my proof that I'm not. Or, hey, my property, while it may seem vacant, actually has a tenant that's in there every day. Here are photos of the tenant in there working or whatever it is. So it just provides them with that opportunity so that before we take any next steps, we've given them their fair
I
share.
really like the idea.
Yeah, one of the citizens today said, how would they enforce the rules for that zoning regulation? And this board would be part of that.
Not necessarily zoning.
Not zoning, but
So
any
right now, we're going to start with
infraction.
these two resolutions, and we're going to see how that goes.
Okay.
And then any adjustments would have to be made by amendment to the existing
right.
bylaws by that board. So
Okay.
So would there be a secretary to the board also, or how would?
I would imagine that they would either self-select a secretary amongst the 5 that get selected, just like they would select a chairperson, or they would designate the staff representative to the board to take minutes and things like that.
And we cleared this with Waycross?
I have not talked to Waycross about this yet. I figured once we got past this step, it would be the appropriate time to talk to them about scheduling and.
You didn't hear that, Dana.
Okay, no other questions from me.
Nope, none for me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. There's one item on the consent agenda that is a donation acceptance in the Department of Fire and EMS from Christine Zerpak, and her she gave them a $200 Visa gift card, and I would recommend adoption of the consent agenda.
I motion that we approve the donation acceptance, Department of Fire EMS, $200 gift card, which is the whole consent agenda from Christine Zerpak.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Christine.
Yes, thank you.
very
Very
much.
generous.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, fiscal officer.
I have no report, Board. Thank you.
Okay. Any executive session needed?
None
Can we have a
that I know
motion to
of.
adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting at 11 minutes past 9 o'clock.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
I'll second. Meeting adjourned at 9:11.
Go ahead, vote.
Oh, sorry, we got to vote. I always want to hit that gavel.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Now I'm hitting it. It's adjourned.